I trained to mild discomfort and I didn't realize it until I actually trained to failure. And this is just one of the few things that I actually wish I knew before I started lifting. Because before I knew to train to failure, I was just training for like the pump, the burn, or like whatever these guys said online, right? They said train, get the pump, the blood flow to the muscle, or training to X amount of reps before failure, like 8 reps in reserve. Although I don't think that's true. And these again are just one of the few things that I wish I had known before I started lifting. And so the first one being is intensity matters more than volume, because in order to get bigger, you need to get stronger. And so you need to give your muscles a reason to grow. And you do that by providing it a more harder stimulus. By giving your muscles a harder or a stronger stimulus to muscle growth, it forces the muscle to then, get bigger and get stronger. So a quote that I like to think about is from Mike Menzer. If you don't know him, he was like an old bodybuilder. He heavily emphasized that you should train to failure pretty often, right? There would be like his workouts were like 30 minutes long per day. You do one exercise per muscle group and just call it a day. And so what he would say is the stronger a muscle becomes, the bigger that muscle also becomes, and vice versa. So as your muscles get bigger and bigger, your muscles will also get stronger and stronger. And again, the reverse is true. As your muscles get stronger and stronger, your muscles will get bigger and bigger. So this is like an absolute no-brainer that in order to get bigger muscles, you need to get strong. Because think about it. If you take your bench press from 135 to 225, do you think your chest will get bigger, look better, and look aesthetic, right? All of those would be true, right? Whereas, and again, because you took 135 to 225, you got stronger and gains were definitely made. Now, I quickly want to preface something is that if you're a beginner from month 1, or I guess month 0 to month 6, maybe a bit more, I'd actually suggest that you train with moderate volume rather than like high intensity. And this is because as a beginner, you don't know proper form and proper technique, and so there's just more chances of you getting injured, and that's something you want to avoid, right? I imagine you would, right? And so if you train directly to failure on like the first day of the gym, like the first day like you enter the gym, you're probably going to injure yourself, assuming that you don't know proper form, proper technique. So what I would say is just train with moderate intensity and moderate volume from like month 0 to month 6. After you get the form and technique down, only then just start to train to failure. The second thing that I wish I knew when I first started lifting is that your diet is everything. Like, you ever heard of the 80-20 rule? Your diet is like 80% of your gains. Lifting is like 20% of it, right? Because like lifting is the easy part. You go to the like maybe not right now, but because you're a beginner, but you will definitely face this problem where like lifting weights is like really easy. It just becomes a habit. It's just routine at this point, right? You go to the gym, do your sets, go home, right? Diet is the hard part, and it's the part like where majority of people get screwed up. And I'm not perfect or anything, but I've definitely screwed up. Even to this day, right? I'll sometimes go like on cheat meals and just like go above my calorie limit when I'm supposed to be at like 3,300 calories. I go to like 3,500 calories, right? I'm not supposed to do that for my bulk, but sometimes I'll admit I will do that. And so your diet is like everything. It literally dictates how much fat you gain and how much fat you lose. Because like if you can maintain control of your diet, building muscle and losing fat, it should be like a snap of the fingers, right? If you control your diet, building muscle like on like a bulk with minimal fat gain should be possible. So again, back then my diet was like pretty shit, and I was eating like a lot of carbs, Protein was, fine, like 1 gram per pound of body weight. Fats, there were a lot less. Now I like recently upped my fat intake because I want more fats than I want carbs. And another reason why your diet is important is because the quality of foods that you eat affects your diet, or not your diet, your workouts, right? So carbs are carbs, right? But if you eat 200 grams of carbs from rice compared to ice cream, right? Which one do you think is going to be more, or which one do you think is going to be more helpful for your workout tomorrow, right? You can choose 200 grams of ice cream or 200 grams of rice. The answer is rice. Why? For ice cream, there's too many chemicals in there. It can probably like spike some insulin, make you feel nauseous. It just doesn't have good side effects, right? Although it tastes good. But that's the thing. When it comes to your diet and workout, it is very clear where you're fucking up. If you just... Okay, I guess a better way to explain this is, if you eat like shit on your diet, it will show in your workouts. Your workouts will go down, even like after you get out of your newbie gains. If you eat like shit, it will definitely show in your workouts because your lifts are going to go down. Whereas if you eat high quality foods, potatoes, rice, I wouldn't necessarily say peanut butter, but chickens, meats, eggs, fishes. If you eat those kinds of foods, then your diet and your workouts will explode through the roof, right? Because you're fueling your body with like good quality food, and now your muscles are now using that to make them stronger and bigger, so that it can help with the next workout, so that you can also build more and more muscles. Now, the third thing is that compound lifts they should be the main focus. When I was in training in my first few years, I didn't do any compound lifts, and I just wanted the aesthetic stuff, right? I just wanted bigger arms, a nicer chest. I was doing a bunch of isolations exercises instead of actually doing compound lifts, right? And now I will admit, I did make some gains, but after that it just stopped because my training was shit, my intensity wasn't dialed in properly. But two is because there is a certain limit to how much you can progress on isolation. So if you're doing so if you take your lateral raises from 10 pounds all the way to 20 pounds, right? Muscle would have been built. But the problem is that taking from 20 to 25, that's a struggle. To 25 to 30, that's even more of a struggle. And then 30 to 35, then 35 to 40. You get what I'm saying? Is that isolations are really hard to progress because the movement itself isn't really strong enough and it's really slow. So you can probably get to 50-pound lateral raises in 10 years of training, maybe less, right? I don't know that many people who can lateral raise 50 pounds with perfect form without doing some kind of momentum or some kind of swing. And so, whereas if you do compound lifts, right? So a compound lift that involves the shoulders would be dips or bench press, right? If you get good at those two exercises, by default, your shoulders will grow and you're not going to need to do as much lateral raising as you would have you just done lateral raises, because compound lifts help with the secondary muscles that your isolations will target, and they still build pretty good strength. So again, the reason why I'm saying this is because with compound lifts, it's much easier to progress even with the secondary movements like the shoulders and triceps. Whereas if you do the isolations, your lateral raises, as you progress quickly, you will hit a plateau to the point where it's just really slow, really tedious to like continue progressing. Whereas again, if you did the bench press, the dips, a compound movement, you could still progress in your shoulders without feeling somewhat guilty that, or I guess not guilty, but like without it feeling slow is what I'm trying to say, right? Compound lifts help you progress even when isolations can't, because they're like really limited to how much you can like lift is what I'm trying to say. The fourth thing is that I wish I knew before I started lifting is that rest periods will never not be enough. So when I first started training, like again, I would do one set of like tricep push downs, rest 90 seconds, maybe 2 minutes. That's done. Do the same set, right? Then rest 90 seconds to 2 minutes, right? I would keep doing that, and by like my third set of that like, exercise, right, it would go from like 12, 10 to 4. And you're like, what the hell is this major dip? Major dip, right? You go from 12, 10 to 4. And this is because you're not giving your muscles adequate time to recover. And you could say that this is hypertrophy, right? But again, we want like progressive overload, right? As your strength goes up, your muscles will also go up. So you should incorporate a lot more rest into your like rest periods, because it will never hurt you if you rest too much, if that makes sense, right? So let's say you do like a really hard or intense set of bicep curls, right? And you think, I should rest 2 minutes because of the hypertrophy, right? And they said to take it to failure. What you're instead doing is like you're actually like shooting yourself in the foot, because you did such an intense set and you're only resting like 2 minutes. Your bicep muscle won't be recovered enough for you to go all out again for your next set. And so you shoot yourself in the foot, and now you have like a half-ass set of bicep curls. So instead you should do something like bicep curls to failure, 4 to 5 minute rest. I know it's a lot, right? And you're gonna look like one of those powerlifter guys sleeping on the squat machine, or like I forgot what it's called, squat rack. You're gonna be on the squat rack, like those powerlifters on the squat rack that are like just sleeping with the freaking pillow and like their blanket, right? And I know this might like piss others off at the gym, but again, don't be too shy about that, because you literally just ask the guy to work in with you, and then you might even make a friend, right? So again, rest more will always be good for you. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that you will always benefit from resting more rather than like resting for such a short time, no matter what. Because again, and also it's a good thing too, because you're going to failure so often to the point where you need to rest 5 to maybe 7 minutes per set. Like I do this too, and at first I thought this was kind of dumb, because like you're eating 7 minutes of someone's valuable time to be using that same machine. But at the same time, not too many people go to like the gym that I go to, or like the Planet Fitness, and these people, they're just on the cardio machines, or there's not enough people to warrant me justifying to rest 2 minutes, right? If no one's bothering you, and even if they do, just rest as much as you want. Again, it's your workout. If they want, they can work in with you, but again, just be smart about it, right? Rest when you should go back into the set when you feel like it, and that's generally after 5 minutes, after you're done, like you push some heavy metal. The final thing I wish I had known when I first started lifting was keep it simple, stupid, right? Because when I first started training, right, I had 8 different exercises per push pull legs a day, right? I was doing that 6 day a week push pull legs. I had 8 different exercises doing 2 hours in the gym for 6 days a week. And so I look back at this and it's like really funny. I do 4 to 3 sets per exercise, 12 reps with 90 minutes or 90 seconds to 2 minutes of rest, maybe 3 minutes. I forget. I would do this and plateau, not make gains, all that stuff. Whereas now I look back at it and it's like I just do 4 exercises with 2 sets, 7 minutes of rest, 5 to 7 minutes of rest in between each set, and just call it a day. And my workouts take like less than an hour now compared to when I was doing it 1 to 2 years ago when I was doing it for like 2 hours. So I find it like really funny, but yeah, just you want to keep it simple, stupid, right? At the time I was doing a lot of junk volume, and that's like that's the opposite of muscle growth, right? I'm like, again, it's a double. I'm shooting myself in the foot because like it's junk volume, and that's just gonna make it worse because I'm doing extra volume, and that's just hurting my recovery. Whereas again, now I'm just doing 2 sets per exercise, 2 failure, 5 minutes of rest in between the set, call it a day. And that's literally all I do, and now my muscles are finally getting bigger and stronger. But yeah, that's about it. I just want to thank you for your time, for watching this video. Go like and subscribe, do that YouTube stuff, leave a comment down below. And yeah, peace.